Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session of Change Is No Robbery, the Cuckqueans and Cuckolds Errants, the Bearing Down of the Inn, by William Percy. This is a play that has lots of names over time. I haven't decided which one I'm going to put on the video title, but yeah, there's quite a few of them dancing about, and we are going to be working our way through this text up to a point I don't know either. We're sort of playing this one by ear as to whether we're going to go 1/3 of the way through the play or 2/3 of or halfway through the play. I don't know. Maybe we'll get through the whole. We won't get through the whole play. But we're going to find out a bit about William Percy, whom we have not read any work thereof by yet, and we've got a few lined up going forward, of which. The amount of which the universe will see, we shall see. But anyway, to get a handle on the bearing down of the inn, etc., reading today Tarlton's Ghost and Shift is...
Longstaffe in the northwest of England.
Reading Pearl and Pigot is...
Lynn Freitas in the northwest of the United States.
Reading Floradin and Wright and Denham is...
Alan, originally from Colchester, but not connected to any of these characters.
Reading Joyce, Rook and Periman is...
Lois in London, never met any of these people.
Reading Janekin is...
And in Montpellier, France, not Vermont.
Reading Nim and Arvania is...
DiRoberto, Tucson.
Reading Dowsabella and Christian is...
Sarah Blake in Germany.
And joining us to read Ralph, Claribel, Lacy and Sanders is...
Briony, Sparrow, actor in someone else's house.
Oh, lovely. And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'm going to be reading stage directions in my own house. So without further ado, we're going to dive into the opening of this text. And we have a prologue. Enter Tarlton's ghost after the second sounding. He plays a while low on his tabor, then speaks as following, standing at entrance of the door and under the beam.
Spectators, for as much as deeds do so clearly flash me into your eyes, I need not superstitiously recapitulate into your ears now either my name or my person. For without all peradventure that by your license and permission I may use mine own phrase and mine own dialect to you, gentlemen, most infallible demonstrations and arguments will prompt the same to you. My drum, my cap, my slop, my shoe, yea, even that same old and merry Master Tarlton, the quondam controller or DiRoberto of this inn you do behold. But what, honest gentlemen, more goes to making a mess in time of need than for, more to the fulfilling a wine court than common measure, borage accepted. Besides, as very learnedly it hath been set down, one swallow maketh not a summer, as neither cloth one owl make a winter. Therefore, pat and plain, gentlemen, for and as concerning my coming to you now, I would not have you think my ghost appears accoutred thus, as you see it is, ladies and gentlemen, should be in love with me, trust me, no such matter, but only that I might do mine host, Pigot, the master, need a drink. Master of this inn, I wit, the Tarlton in Colchester is right, to wit, the honour and office of a friend. How? Thus to celebrate an old ass's memory to eternity, or to set a perfect pattern of him in all his lines and lineaments at his door, and wine tavern too. Oh, my heavenly maker! Shall I be such an ingratitude and pernicious wretch? I forget this man's courtesy. Shall I antipathetically drench either his name or his fame in oblivion? shall I invest on me the bull case of such a monstrum horrendum? Oh, God forbid, says Apostle Paul. Yet a little compliment, and yet a little compliment, I beseech you, as whilom I intimated oft the same to you, sweet gentlemen. Now, here in this inn, the now Tarlton, or familiar in Colchester, we have had, many and oft between us, consorts of many, the most luscious, the most delicate, the most savoury, the most frisking bum fiddles of this city, of whom mine own dear wife, and God rest her sweet soul, ever made up the 13th to the dozen of them. And yet, notwithstanding, as I well see, old Bias holdeth still his old bias, and hath not yet cleansed his house of the mare, but hath maintained it in its ancient bawdry, as by the sequel shall appear to you, ever since my departure from this sink of sin, the world, which was amongst the rest of the heroes of these days in the year of our Lord God, my Redeemer, 1588. And therefore, honest gentlemen, as ever, you have honoured Richard Tarlton with your presence. So let him now but obtain one boon at your hands. You but sit quiet the while, censure meekly, and judge impartially. And if ever it so shall hap, as one day you pass up by Colchester as you travel towards Ostend this way, mine host Pigot shall bestow gratia gratis datis upon you in my behalf a funeral supper. So, gentlemen, you'll be all welcome, as I may well say. I mean, paying as your shot, I mean your ordinary and wanted accustomed applause for the same. Unto my fellow, my friend, my countryman, Master Pigot is in, even unto that same, the right well known and ken resemblance or statue of the right worshipful Master Richard Tarlton in Colchester. Gentlemen, frolic, I beseech you all.
He plays a little, then exits. Or, to put it another way, we're at an inn in Colchester. It's an incredibly lengthy callback to a dead comedian. And that's basically, for those who don't know, Richard Tarlton, famous comedian of the past. He's died in 1588, I think, off the top of my head. So he's been dead well over a decade now. He's an almost legendary figure. His picture turns up a lot, and you know he's very recognisable as a dead cultural icon. But I mean, the way he's written here, I'm not sure necessarily wholly matches some of the other sort of accounts or some of the parts we've got that survive for him. It's very florid in a way that I don't wholly know matches the way we interpret what he was like. We have on the podcast in various other forms looked at other texts dealing with Tarlton's afterimage. Almost all those texts are written after he's dead, so it's sort of difficult to get a sense of what he was actually like. So this is another sort of version of it. In fact, the text does explicitly say he died in 1588. Yes, he did. But it's sort of this almost a Shaggy Dog story intro of just going, it's basically saying, we're at the place named after me. That's it. That's all he's got to say. Yeah. And he says it at great length. And not unenjoyably, but a little excessively. God forbid, says Apostle Paul. I quite like that. Any thoughts on the room before we actually get into the action of the play? I don't know quite what to do with this. Recast it as Tommy Cooper. I don't know. Stephen.
Well, Tarlton's ghost did turn up in quite a few prose texts.
Yeah.
So there is a kind of precedent there for him not being the dramatic character, Tarlton, or the characters that we might associate with Tarlton. From the plays and other things that we know he was in. So maybe it's drawing on not on Tarlton, but on Tarlton's ghost, as it were, which is sort of separate thing.
I would say it's the way he's written. I'm not sure he even matches to say the version of Tarlton's News Out or News Out of Purgatory, where Tarlton appears there as well. And I'd say just his voice is not doesn't seem consistent across different texts. It's like the people are able to print an impression upon this dead figure. Lois.
Yeah, one could compare it, I suppose, with what Nash does with Will Summer in Summer's Last Will and Testament, where he brings on a comedian from even further back. I can't remember enough about. I mean, Will Summer goes on at great length too. I think he's a lot funnier than this, but I think maybe this is where Percy got the idea. Something I find very interesting is a bit we didn't read, which is the stage direction telling us that this is an inn with the image of Tarlton. I mean, it is the inn sign, but also that the title of the play is hanging above the stage. I'm always interested in evidence of that. This again has something to do with Eastward Ho, but never mind.
Yes, yes, you're absolutely right. Harwich in the midst of the stage, Colchester with an image of Tarlton, sign and garland under him. Also, the Rangers' Lodge, Malden, a ladder of ropes trussed up near Harwich, highest and aloft the title, the Cuckqueans and Cuckolds Errants. So we do have a sense of place names being added around this set to give us an impression of where things are happening. Okay, I think that's enough to say that we're where we are. Let's go into Act 1, Scene 1 and get into some action. Here they sound the third sounding to tell us that the show actually now starts. So that was effectively a pre-show bit of business from Tarlton. The show actually now starts. The audience is technically in. Enter Dowsabella, Floradin, Rafe, and Joyce. They enter from Malden, the Malden entrance there.
Joyce, is James yet gone to Harwich with the letter?
Mistress, an hour gone.
And has taken the black nag along with him?
Yes, forsooth, and shall like you.
That jade will bring him straight to Malden, suppose. I need not repeat to thee, Floradin, how great hath been the love that I have borne to thee and thine, since first thou setst thy foot, since thy return and landing at the Staithes within this wide circumference of Malden. The masques, the banquets, and the mummeries that for thy sake I've held this 12 months' space, well witness what have been. I speak not it to cast it in thy teeth. What I have done, I witness Cythery, I repent it not, nor ever shall. But trust me, Floradin, I am so impoverished by the mean that I must dismiss my family needs, for which I have sent to Harwich, thou seest, for my sweetheart to stop my creditors, a new come from his peregrination home too, who like a ravenous waterfall do rush on me without respect or shame. And therefore, sweet my friend, let me once more but obtain thou wouldst forbear my house now. Get thee to Harwich. Welcome home thy wife, not doubting but, ere Janus revests his furs, we shall again afloat with wonted cheer.
So strikes Jove's thunder to the passengers. So sounds the shipwreck to the mariner. As to thy words, fair Dowsabella, to me. Then, oh, persuade me not, I will not hence. Not the powers of heaven shall wreathe me my love.
Doubt'st me, Floradin? Didst thou want but? I filled thy purse with crowns. Brought'st thou friends? I bade them welcome for thy sake. If sick, I've played the nurse to cherish them, or what likewise not done to show my love to you. Then give me leave, sweet friend. By Jove, I swear that I do. Unwillingly I do.
Oh, bitter sop of baleful wretchedness, sourest cup of thickest Acheron! What pain so great may once be compared unto those pains that parting lovers feel? Believe me, Dowsabella, the heart-devouring bird that daily feeds on guts of Titius, the endless wheel beset with hooks and crooks on which Ixion runs, or that round ball which the old thief shoves rolling to and fro, be not half so great. Then, Dowsabella, Let me beseech once more thy deity divine, thou wouldst reverse those dreadful words of thine.
Let Sol never with his bright lamp behold this world's circumference, if I do not rue the time's necessity, much as you. But what? If Cupid ne'er unbend his bow, certes he will disarm his harm, I know. Then be not grieved, if for this once I beg of thee, dear Floradin, this little boon. Say, shall I obtain my suit of you now?
Fair Dowsabella, solace of my soul, since need will part the surest friends I see, I will hie me now towards Harwich home, and ere a summer's pass, return to you.
Sweet friend, so do. And by that assure thyself I shall be ready to embrace thee with a livelier spirit. So now, I thank you.
Dowsabella, farewell.
Adieu, sweet friend.
The like to you. Come away, sirrah boy.
Exit Floradin and Dowsabella severally.
I come. Joyce, I see lovers must part, so must we too.
Rafe, to my bane be it spoken, I do feel me now to be wholly in a quagmire for thy departure, Rafe.
What remedy but patience, Joyce?
Rather a remedy for patience, Rafe.
Adieu, my sweet and sugared Joyce.
Kind and honest Rafe, adieu.
Never a deal the honester for you. Adieu.
Go, Jew, go, Jew.
And with that awkward line, exit Ralph and Joyce severally. Act 1, Scene 2. We'll get some more data before we stop. Enter Nym and Shift. Lifts. They meet from Malden and from Harwich.
What fellow, Shift? Thou beest welcome to Colchester by these couple of testers, Shift.
He claps his 2 thumbs on his fellow's lips.
Whom do I view? Whom do I behold? Nym, mine old pew fellow at the occupation. What gaudieti valere, Nym?
What now, the news in London, Shift?
These. Thames, as broad as it was ever. Paul's steeples stands in the same place it did before, and twopence is the price for the new going into a play there.
But what new engines for maintenance of our trade, man?
These. First, and imprimis, if any time I may perceive Paul Steeple hath gotten him a surveyor, gingerly I steal after him, bind his 2 thumbs, flay his case, crack his crown, leave him up to the open mercy of the heavens. Calo tegiter, qui non habat unam.
If in case a burgher should pass that way, and in case the said burgher should look up thither, for to take him thence a model for to build him such another steeple by, as was at first Tertio, Elizabethan mean, so mightest thou be descried, so taken, so hanged, forward.
Item. And again, if so by chance I see a termer trudgeth toward the temple, I take him by the sleeve, stare him in the face, bid him look to himself, then around as a juggler's box with his upper vestments and away.
If they in the street should observe everyone have but one single cloak apiece on his back, thou a couple, him none, then necessarily they will conclude thou, only thou, art the man must stand thine own defendant against this termer's case, Shift. Be these thy shifts? By the Lord of our trade, I am most repentantly sorry for thee, Shift. I can show thee 20 nimbler ledgeries than these, but be in a day, Shift.
I am anti-Victoriam, Nym. Thou amblest before thy horse to market, Nym.
Exodus acta probate. Here some come, and here lo, I will couch for my prey, Shift.
And come on thy ways, I say to thee, let us behold it, Nym.
And Nym and Shift withdraw. Enter Wright and Pearl. They come from Colchester.
Nay, Master Pearl, your worship be so tropical with me. I must needs have a pair of tables for you.
He draws forth his writing tables.
Now, sir, do you begin? I beseech you.
Thus, Wright, I do weave my exordium. Vulcane, torno mihi labore, quantum potes poculum proundum, which in English terms is to say that thou wouldst make me a most monstrous, swinging, standing bowl, O Vulcan.
Your exordium is ill knit, Master Doctor. I protest. Never yet was I married. I vow to you that I live still a bachelor.
A Vulcan secundum quid, I meant it, according to thy sculptor, that thy fabricature or hammercraft, Goodman Wright.
Now I understand your good worship. Forward, sir.
Quantum potes profundum. I iterate, and I iterate it to thee.
Not too deep, I pray you yet, lest your worship chance to be choked with a grape, as was once your author. Well,
be the substance silver, the accidental autumn portraitures, be they 3 gilt antics, with as many gilt spouts in their mouths.
sir, your mystery?
They stand for 3 gods of the 3 liquors therein shall be contained. Nempe, the god of sack, the god of Hippocras, and the god of Methglin.
So, sir, to the rest.
Mottle Talater, thou mayest enamel the rest with tongues of as many colors as there be in the rainbow, they say.
How many colours, say your worship, hath the rainbow?
Innumerable.
Then possibly be there not to be set down. Yet, by your worship's leave, I have heard some say the rainbow has 3 colours only, and no more.
Propugnest thou me, I will oppugn thee. Mille tahens varios adversos sole colores.
That's not innumerable. But say, what's your worship's hieroglyphic or symbol in these coloured tongues?
Even as these liquors in the bowl contained will make a man speak diversity of tongues, so ex adverso, this bowl, these liquors containing, must of necessity be set forth with a variety of tongues to express the same.
But do you hear me, sir? Will your worship have no noses set amongst your tongues? For such liquors as these will cause diversity of noses, as well as of tongues, you know.
Thou mayest between every 2-pied tongue dispose of 1 gilt nose. So when the mother of pearl knock up, finis.
Why with the mother of pearl?
For because my mother was a pearl.
But why with finis, Master Doctor?
Because the word finis, being cut in the waist, is fine is, which car fox way may indifferently be alluded to my mother, to myself, to my wife, and also most adeptly to this my bowl now.
Excellent. But against when would your worship have this bowl ready now?
By tomorrow night, against wassail, sure. Fellow, what's the price now? Say.
Quantum potes profendum, says your worship to me. Marry, some £20 sterling, with the addition of 1 good odd noble over and above.
A most reasonable animal he is, sure. Bring him but to my house tomorrow, shalt have thy reward therefore.
I am so content. Farewell, Master Doctor.
Oh, farewell to thee also, my most ingenious Wright.
Exit right.
What a saucy yeoman was this, who would stand so stiff on interrogatories with my worship's patience. So he would have said, but haw to me at every word. I should have spoken to him. I should have furnished his dry vault with the whole shamble of invention. But still so to interrupt me at every style with question philosophical, when I know there is no more in him than there is a peascod in an oyster and a peascod. You may take whither of the 2 you please in this place. For you must suppose that I myself have engrossed it whole unto mine own scullery ward. The petulant knave hath so intoxicated my brain thereby, I shall wear my cap first, furred, whilst I live by the mean. But via, as very well saith that the dusty proverb, forewarned, forearmed. And therefore, for to jog it forth my worshipful head before it settle, I will presently into market and see there what sweet fish there is for dinner, now to be had. So, a good God morrow unto you all, now, gentlemen, the whiles.
And exit Pearl.
So ho, I have him. So ho, whoa, ho, whoa, ho, ho.
The bowl, Nim. Where is it, man? Where is it?
Shift, if I show thee not such a hurl of a legerdemain as ever beheld it yet with those prunnels of thine, Shift, never call me Nim henceforth. In pawn whereof, sirrah, come thou now, dine with me at the sign of the Tarlton straight, come.
Aye, but with what, Nim?
Why, the bowl, man, the bowl.
A cold dinner belike thou meanest. Go thou in before. After I shall have said, but grace, I will follow thee straight.
Grace, Shift?
A song, I meant it.
If that be thy grace, Shift, let us hear thee to sing it with a grace. Shift, begin. Shift, thou shalt see me have at this bowl anon, sure.
And to heave at him too, Nim.
So to be understood too, Shift, say.
With a wish and with a hush, haste we both to the bush, before it be close of day, to heave this bowl all away. With a wish and with a hush, haste we both to the bush. Neither keen knife nor yet thumb may whip him by slit or by numb. Ned Brown, neither old Pocus, may have their rules in this case. With a wish and with a hush, haste we both to the bush. But wily ship must heave him at a dead lift. The slight layeth of the whole, not in the sum but in the soul. With a wish and with a hush, haste we both to the bush. Go we both to eftsoons to furnish us now with juice of vineyard so strong, both sconces at it belong. With a wish and with a hush, haste we both to the bush.
And they exit to the Tarlton. So geography is very important in this text. We've noted that the stage clearly indicates where the direction of Harwich, Colchester, and Malden is, and of course, Colchester is effectively in the middle of the two. If you're journeying between them, the two places on the coast. It's quite important where people coming and going from in the geography of this, and it's interesting that we have this logic clearly put in. We get a song, and we get random anti-Semitism, so we've got a sort of an affair that's gone on at the beginning, which is sort of going off the boil, at least from one side of it. That's how it seemed to play to me, and very much on the other. We've got Nim and Shift wanting to do some chicanery, and we have their Mark turning on with a bowl, which is clearly going to be an important plot device. But we do have an awful lot of people randomly talking random Latin, which is making that slightly hard work. There's some lovely stuff in this, but there's also a lot of stuff going, ooh, need to work on this. It's pushing I think some of us away a bit. Thoughts in the room? Because as I say, lots to like, lots to be annoyed by. I'll go to Briony, then Lynn.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm understanding the English bits any more than I am the Latin bits for a lot of this. I hope it's not just me. Was I supposed to get what the joke was with Nim and Shift repeating each other's names every 5 seconds? I don't know. What?
I'm not 100% certain that there is an actual joke there beyond the pleasure of saying the same thing. You're right. The English is very dense as well, and there's a lot of and this is going to be the problem. The further we get into the 17th century, there's going to be a lot more of this kind of problem, where the English is quite alien to us in certain ways. Lynn, then Alan, then Stephen, then Sarah.
Yeah, it was a few kind of things unrelated to each other. That the scene between Dowsabella and Floradin was creeping me out a little bit. She's like, "You need to go home now. You need to go. You need to leave my house." And he's like, "Oh, don't make me. I want to stay here." Like, dude, yeah, like that's her space. Get out. I mean, he finally does say, "Oh, I guess it's necessary for lovers to part," but that, I don't know, creeped me out a little bit. So I think that really needs some careful handling in the playing. So if I remember right, Nim is like a slang term for like to pickpocket or to steal something. Okay, so they repeat each other's names because their names are what they do. You know, Shift is like subtle shift. Remember subtle shift from something or other? So yeah, somebody who's like, he's a grifter, and Nim is a pickpocket, so that's why they repeat their names. But yeah, I'm with Briony. I didn't know what I was saying about 80% of the time. It's like I have no idea what I was on about, even when I was speaking the supposed English translation of the Latin. So yeah, parsing that is a is a task one would need to do.
Stephen.
Yeah, we kind of have an explanation at the end of the Pearl and Wright scene where it turns out that one of them doesn't know anything, and the Latin they're coming out with and what they're saying is all gibberish. But we've just had a scene between two thieves where we've had exactly the same sort of thing going on. So the second one rather, we've got a sort of, for those of you at the back who didn't quite get it, it's all explained to you, but we're kind of like, well, what about the first scene where they're whacking Latin at each other over the net? What's the point of all of that?
Stephen. Alan.
Yeah, I mean the Latin strikes me as being potentially gratuitous to try and look posh, but I mean effectively I see Nim and Shift as a pair of London gangsters, low lives. These days probably paid broad cockney.
Sarah.
Yeah, can somebody elucidate the point of the bowl to me? Because I have a feeling this is going to be important. And there was like the bowl, but I think I don't know if I was being a bit vacant or wasn't paying attention properly, but I completely missed the point, like when the bowl was introduced and what its significance is.
I think its significance is it's going to get nicked.
But what is it? I mean, is it just an ordinary bowl? Is it?
I think it's a very fancy bowl. I think it's. I'll go to Alan and then I'll go to Briony, then Lynn.
I mean, it's a posh wassail bowl. I mean, it's costing £20 plus, which would be a very significant sum of money at the time, and it's highly over decorated. I mean, I think Pearl is obviously trying to show off possibly potentially nouveau riche, and has commissioned this flashy object from Wright, who's the local goldsmith.
Briony, then Lynn.
I agree with Alan's take on the bowl. I presume it's just to show what a rich show off this guy is, and so that it can be conveniently stolen as a plot point. The other thing that I found really interesting was the song. I don't know if I fully grasped it, so I think he wants to do something dodgy that even his dodgy friend isn't in on. So he says he's going to hang back and say grace, and then realizes that's such a ridiculous story. He changes it to, no, it's a song. It's I need to sing my song, and then he just sings this made up song. Is that what happened, or was there actually more to that than I got?
I genuinely don't know the answer to that. That might be the answer. Yes. Lynn.
Back to the bowl. So the bowl is not like a punch bowl. It's a drinking vessel. It's something an individual would drink out. You hear in this period, bring me a bowl of wine. They don't mean like a soup bowl. They mean a goblet. They mean a mug of beer, a bowl of wine. It's the bowl of a footed goblet that means. So it's an individual drinking vessel. So you could hide it under a cloak or whatever. So it's easier to steal. But yeah, obviously silver and valuable. So something you could steal and then pawn.
Lois, were you going to?
Well, I don't know. I thought a standing bowl must mean something that can stand on its own. But he was talking about 3 different kinds of liquor in it. Which made me wonder if it was quite a bit bigger. He may just mean there are only the 3 possible kinds to put in it. I don't know, but it sounded more like something that you might actually be storing large amounts in.
Anyway, we will move on from the bowl and find out more from the plot as we enter to another element of the plot. Act 1, Scene 3. Enter Claribel in coloured velvet, gentlemanlike as Floradin in colours. Arvania, Rook, Janekin, and a serving man in a blue coat. Claribel with a letter in hand, open. They enter with "From Harwich, all."
Clear up those eyes, my dearest Arvania, that were framed never, I dare avouch, for other end than for sport and dalliance. Thou knowest lovers must part, so likewise we, for what's the thing in this circumference that does not rise and fall by mutual turn? Then give me leave, sweet friend, for I protest, from Harwich I part not with willingness.
No, my joy, my comfort, Claribel, I never expected other from first. You men, when once you surfeit on our love, or you have got a mastery on us, straight you become so cold, so wavering, so glorious, and so fantastical, that in your words and jests you show such tokens as if what Venus meant you never knew.
Why, lovely friend, from my wife by letter, on sudden news of my return from Bantam, am cited home in haste, thou seest, to Malden. Bachelors may, as they please, or go or tarry, we're bound by the chain necessity, to children, wife, and family. Therefore, dear heart, persuade not, for I must be gone.
If once thou gettest from me, thou never will return.
Think'st me, if faith, so damned a wretch, I will contemn the dreadful hand of wrathful Jove, to satisfy a lone commodity? Sooner shall this veil rent in two, than that I do subscribe to that vile perjury.
Thy parture palls not so my thoughts yet, as care if thou be parted from my sight once, thou wilt be cold and careless in thy love. Ha, this is it that nippeth Claribel.
Arvania, I protest, by that fair hour in which I first possessed thy love itself, next, by that ladder, pointing to the ladder of Rook, hung up to hail me here, then by that fruit I reaped there, my heart, where that it sitteth firm as adamant, shall bend unto the lodestars of thy eyes. And that thou mayest suppose I do not part with willingness, I do solemnly swear now, ere winter, I will again be in Harwich.
Sworn, will you perform what you said then, not to forsake me, but return with speed?
This and all I do duly swear unto, and on thy lip I do I seal the bond thus.
He kisses her.
Adieu, sweet friend.
On condition you leave, sweet love, adieu.
Adieu once more.
Farewell.
Come away, knave.
I come.
And you.
I come.
Exeunt Claribel and Arvania severally.
But Janekin, what will now do when I am gone?
I shall be troubled with the lady's disease, Rook.
What's that, Janekin, say you?
With a lady's longing, Rook.
I with the Lord's, Janekin.
What's that? Say you too now.
With the most importunate and most furious priapism, Janekin.
But how if it do wax too furious, Rook?
Fresh water will quell him, Janekin mine.
Rook, adieu.
The like, Janekin, to you.
And they exit severally, and here they knock up the consort, or the music plays. Everybody's quite horny. So this is the inverse of the first scene. So the first scene, you've got the male lover is returning to his wife. He doesn't want to go. He wants to stay with his lover. And here we have the Claribel has to go to his wife as well, but is Arvania who wants him to stay. So it's basically the first scene inverted. And similarly, we've got this whole thing with the servants doing. The servants seem to be having affairs as well. So it's quite interesting stuff that's going on here. There's a lot of bed hopping. It's interesting. I don't know if we've had this much bed hopping in Act 1 before. Lois.
I just noticed that there are two stage directions that seem to have got into the text. One was in the previous scene, actually, where there's a note saying you can use either of these expressions, whichever you prefer, which seems like an odd thing to tell the actor, but that surely it could conceivably be part of the speech, but I don't think it is. And then here we've got that one about pointing to the ladder, which obviously is a stage direction.
Yes, because that line doesn't make scansion doesn't make any sense that way, does it? So yes, absolutely. Other thoughts, Lynn?
I'm just sort of randomly reminded of a short exchange in the dramatization of Les Liaisons Dangereuses, where Valmont asks his servant, "So how are you getting on with the maid of the woman he's trying to seduce?" And the servant's like, "Oh, well, it's going all right, but I think we're both kind of bored with it. But, what else is there to do in the country?" so it's kind of like, the servants are like, "Oh, we're all our employers are getting it on. I guess we may as well." Why not? What else is there to do in the country?
Indeed. Living in the country. I couldn't possibly comment. Okay, so the music's played for an interval. Again, we're getting more and more evidence suggesting this is a children's company. That it seems to be very plausible but we'll go into Act 2. Act 2, Scene 1. Enter Pigot with Shift's coat under his arm, Nym and Shift from Colchester.
"You whoreson dishonest knaves, then will you come to an honest man's house, and there eat up his meat and drink, then to have no money in your purses to pay him his reckoning, when you have done so? Lo,
Mine host, Pigot, what needs this stare? Quod defiter, non ofiter. Thou shalt have it all before night, I assure thee, man.
qui non est hodie cras minus optus erit."
Good Master Pigot, let my fellow have his coat. There will be a bowl here, and none shall pay for all effects.
"Then lightning light on my pate."
And the hemorrhoids consume thy fundament, Pigot.
Oh, more than Scythian in hospitality. Shall a good fellow having no more shifts than he hath, be turned forth all the shifts he hath, but for some little scurvy meat and drink, huh?
"Hear you, gentlemen, when your bowl comes, you shall have more. In the meantime, honest Homers both, get you forth my door."
Here's Pigot. If my fellow do not compass this bowl, what shall I give thee? But if my fellow do compass this bowl, what wilt contrariwise pawn to me?
"Pardon me, gentlemen, for I use not to deal upon returns."
Pigot, for thy incredulity thou art damned. The bowl is sure mine, as that money is thine in thy pocket, Pigot.
"Let me see whether thou liest, sirrah."
In instance of which, lo, yonder comes my man, Pigot.
Thy man, Nym? Where? Where is he, Nym? Where?
"Let me have a sight of him, sirrah."
Nay, but stand close, I say to you both, and wait. We but the coming forth of the gander all. Come,
And Nim, Shift and Pigot withdraw. Enter Wright with a silver bowl.
Oh, you all honest gentlemen, I've ended here his bowl for him. Yet notwithstanding, I dare vouch for him that a foolish accord hath never yet been advised, nay, or yet devised by any hath in him but a reasonable soul to be saved by. Thus may good stuff be abused, you see, if it falls into a fool's hand. The best is, if so be at any time henceforth it shall fall into a wise man's hand, he will then, sure, founder him new into some goodly bell, so after for to plant him close and flat on the fool's weathercock, so that he may rattle with him like a bull calf as he passes along. Yet I will carry him home as he appointed me, and ask my money therefore. Who's within there?
Enter Christian.
God save you, Mistress Pearl. God save. Pray, is Master Doctor at home?
No, but if you would anything with him, I am, as he rightly epithetizeth me, the closet of his mind.
I've brought him here, lo, a standing bowl he bespake against wassail. Say you, mistress, how like you the workmanship of him?
By St. Friday, it may be eclipsed well of the wonders of the world the 8th.
Thou the 9th.
East Pigot.
Should I not speak when I have reason? Ho!
Mistress, you may deliver him it from me, and tell him I will come again for my money soon.
So, sir.
Adieu, Mistress Pearl.
Master Wright and you.
Oh, exeunt Wright and Christian severally.
Friend, where is the bowl now?
We saw the bowl to glister that it was a bowl. We heard the bowl to jingle that it was a bowl. We understood them talking that it was a bowl too, but never could we come to the fingering of it yet that it is a bowl, Nim.
Rome was not built in a day, masters, nor a silver bowl may be conveyed so soon. Tante mollis erit Romanum, condre gentum, yet mark my agility.
Exit Nim running.
Shift. Didst observe his agility. Nim is nimmed his way, and Shift is left behind for the whole reckoning. Lo.
Yet thou art an ass. We that live by hooks and by crotches be the truest knaves. The one to the other as any be in this wild world, I wis. Follow you now, mine host Pigot, if in case he should but now tread his shoe awry, and leave me pay the whole reckoning, I, so, in a spleen, might bewray 1,000 villainies he hath committed in his days, nay, the whole fraternity beside, so that by consequence of the bargain, he might very easily be hanged, the whole fraternity of us extinct, and shift true man to shift his neck for the halter. Yet lo, where he comes, and a hare with him in company too, to mend, I hope, our ordinary. See?
Enter Nim with a carcass of a hare.
O Master Mercury, inspire me with some wit. I may now nim this bowl and be extolled by it.
With a heave and a ho.
Shift and Pigot withdraw.
Ho, who within?
Enter Christian.
What lack you, young man?
Is Mistress Pearl's horship at home?
I am that Pearl.
For fault of a better.
Textually, mistress, Master Doctor recommends him to you, sends you here by me a hare, bids you bestow your whole cookery on him, bringeth certain strangers along with him to dinner. Master Wright, my master, is bidden him among the rest.
Come, give him me.
Here, mistress. Moreover and above, he requireth you would but send him by me a standing bowl that was, he says, brought you this morning by my master.
What will his worship do with it, do you trow?
Marry, mistress, he proposes, have him new molten, and have his own lineaments of face placed on him in lieu of one of the antics, he says.
Tarry, but I will fetch him you.
Exit Christian.
Excellent.
Now, Mercury, if it be thy dear will, grant, oh grant, I may but nim this bowl. Then in honor of thy sacred triple name, I will once the day pick purses 1, 2, and 3 as an acceptable or lucridoriferous offering to thee. But lo, it's mine on own sure. I avow to you all, sirs. See?
Re-enter Christian with the bowl.
Hold you, friend.
I thank you, mistress.
And exit Christian, Shift and Pigot come forward.
Trelil, mine host, am I not the man? Am I not now that Trojan, totem qui condere gentem occupit, ha?
As I am true Pigot, yea, true Pigot, quasi, and as it were, true spigot, most truly conveyed.
The bowl, thou meanest it.
What else? For I do well see the effect thereof.
Now, sirs, the sport will be, see Master Doctor, when he comes home, stare with his eyes, grind with his, and misses his bowl. Teeth stamp with his feet, foam at mouth, call his bedfellow whore, harlot, bitch, and 20 more culverin bolts he will cause be full and blank discharged on her then. Quos nunc emetri loquum est.
Let's go quickly now, go in. Snatch dinner. After, come forth, take our stands, and observe the bear baiting. Come.
Agreed.
And gentlemen, for a hansel of your new bull, I will bestow a quart of my best Hippocras heartily on you.
And we, mine host, will drink to thee as heartily.
First a song of thanksgiving, then go on, yea, and shall have thy coat shift now too. All laud and praise be given to God for each his gifts, both small and great, and which he in numerous rod doth human wretches us entreat. If we should all our forces bend to recompense his benefits, we should not ourselves yet defend from our fell adversaries' drifts, who every hour doth pitch his toil, our careless feet in them to enwrap, which if they should but give us foil, what should become of our poor hap? O us, good Lord, pour forth on us, good Lord, pour forth thy grace. We reap each thing without our doubt. Then shall we, in spite of devil's face, receive such things we hook about.
And exit. Yes, we're midway through an act, therefore there must be a song. It's the law, especially if it's definitely a boys' company. So the bowl has been stolen. The bowl is gone. Lois.
Yeah, that was a psalm they were singing, wasn't it? It could be sung to the tune of the old 100th, praise God from whom all blessings flow. That's rather odd, so a psalm in that context. This is beginning to look like the plot of something else. Yes.
What was it? Where like there's a salmon?
Yeah, that's the one.
For dinner, and then a cup, and people pretending to be messengers and servants.
Yep,
I can't remember which play that was.
Dutch courtesan,
this device before.
It was the Dutch courtesan, Cockle de
later.
Yeah,
I think, off the top of my head.
And this prayer set to music is a very weird fit with people who've just stolen something.
Yes.
Oh, I don't know. I think that sort of works. So there's a sort of cruelness. Yeah, and Nim exits faster than a speeding hare. Presumably he's really fast. Again, there's lots to enjoy here. It's just you have to really key into what the language is doing. It's really quite tricky stuff. Feels like it just needs little filleting here and there just to make it more comprehensible. You've got these deliberately over the top, ridiculously long words, and the actors just need to be able to do it with utter verve and conviction and pace, which we can't do on the first read. So it's like the edge on the timing goes off. Kyle.
Yeah, there also seems to be missing, it seems like there's dynamics between the characters that aren't given to us in the language, and just missing things. You're not as taken care of as other plays, it seems like.
Yes, there's a relationship definitely between Nim and Shift and how they function, and Pigot here, of course, is the person who wants the money for the bowl because they're in debt to him. So it's this sort of ongoing debt cycle that's going on in this text.
But he also seems kind of like cowers before Nim for no reason, or at least it seemed that way to me.
Other thoughts before we go further in? Lois?
There are a number of places where I think the characters seem to address the spectators on stage or their audience. I mean, a lot of these, when they say gentlemen, they must mean the audience.
Yeah, and it's a really very direct addresses to the, they are, it's not just, we're doing an aside talking to the audience naturally. They're explicitly saying, honest gentlemen, you over there. It's a very different kind of audience relationship than we've had with other plays of late. We haven't had this level of direct address really since sort of mid-Tudor drama. It's interesting. It's weirdly sort of in place of its time, but it also feels weirdly out of step. It's fascinating what this text is doing at the moment. Okay, any more for any more? No. Okay, let's dive then into Act 2, Scene 2. Enter Floradin, Arvania, Rafe, and Janekin. They come from Harwich Hall.
Shall I not make thee confess, minion, whilst I've been in my travel abroad, how this engine came tied to my window, or to what purpose 'twas here hung up?
You vainly labour to get that from me that I shall never unfold, for by that knot that jointly into it unity bound us, this engine till this day I never saw.
Aye, but 20 other you have both seen and felt in your days, mistress.
It's possible, Arvania. What? A vice of ropes without thy privity shall be hanged, I trow, at that window, where usually a morns thou dost deck thee, and then to stamp it full into my face, this engine till this day thou ne'er saw.
Some, having espied a bun's nest in the window the day, have here set the Scolado besiege him at night, sure.
Might it not be some of my servants, trow, to scale my window in the night, so to cut my throat and rob my house?
Floradin, upon faith and word, if I were asked, I dare for their fidelities be sworn. For myself, sir, the gods forbid I should but against yourself e'er harbor such a thought. Since our nuptials these 20 summers, what service I have yielded to your will, what care, what love, in instance of the which I call thyself unto my record, man. What thing did you at any time demand, albeit in sport, but I have done it.
See how cunningly my mistress flatters him.
What likewise drudgery e'er commanded you, but too I have done it. Then Floradin, but the dread gods shake off your jealousy, and frolic fair, and cheerily look upon me, thy wife, thy love, thy faithful Arvani.
Tell me, gentle Arvani, is it not a gin to trawl a jack unto your bed o' nights? Come I not now near you, gentle spouse mine?
I do defy all such that dare aver that I am false unto my husband's bed.
This no mark to bring thy hawk to lure?
I have no hawk to bring, I assure you.
I can no longer hold, therefore, to outface thy shameless impudency. Lo, strumpet, what have I found among thy boxes late?
Floradin produces letters.
Victus, faith, Victus, victor, victim.
Oh, me, most miserable woman.
Let's see. Comest thou between the hours of 2 and 3? A vice of rope shall be hung forth for thee. Lord, I had his name, and might thou tear from their regions the lecher's entrails, for as I do piecemeal tear these dictions.
He tears up the letter.
So should I tear from his joints his quarters, but wears naught, must needs their patience be. Arvania, I will neither school nor chide thee, that where, when those fast cleanse the Aethiop. By the sacred host, I swear of heaven, I will leave thee a beggar to the world, as ever yet was any, and so will make thee the only mirror of ingratitude for all men's eyes to gaze and wonder at. The shame, the scorn, the people's obloquy.
Ay me.
Dear mistress,
Get in, baggage, get in from me, get in, I say, you whore.
Mistress, oh, bear you this your cross with more than Grazilian that word. Oh, it will make you wise and wary, however you fall into like lime again. Fain, mistress, I would have shed tears for you, but they be such millstones, by my troth, I should have afflict you worse with the faces I should have made with them. Farewell, my dear mistress, farewell.
Exeunt Arvania and Janekin.
Sir, what be you now doing?
I am studying what course I were best to take now.
It had been better you had studied first what you should have done before you had cast her off, than now to study what you would do now you have cast her off, sir.
I will study at the university, sure.
Study will breed melancholy, and that melancholy being added to this melancholy now you be in, will turn you bedlam.
I will journey back into Italy.
Having already horns, as you have, then likewise being Italianate, so might you become devil incarnate.
Oh me, most miserable. What to do or say?
Now, will you hear me speak, sir?
Say, we do hear you, sir.
The Spaniards, as your worship well knows, be now on our coast, intending, with a puissant rascality, as it is to be supposed, invade our land. Now, sir, if you would but suffer me rule you, who, in good sooth, should not rule you, I could wish both now serve in pay under her majesty, who now herself is in person at Tilbury, gathering there together the horns of her power to suppress them.
The fittest course could be devised. Follow!
So, if you be weary, as you say you are, of your life, you may so chance have your brains dashed forth with a caliver, alas dictum a cleaver.
Come, I say.
Not too fast yet, for it is good coming first to a feast and last into a fray.
Aye, sir, and enough is as good as a feast, they say. Come.
I do come.
And they exit. Yes, so the first affair has gone horribly wrong with the, as it turns out, the interconnected with the second affair. Let's see if the second affair, how that's going. Act 2, Scene 3, enter Claribel, Dowsabella, and Rook. They come from Malden.
Dowsabella, farewell and adieu. See you look to my house. I will but visit, lo, my bark, now riding at Harwich, and within 3 or 4 days I will again be at home.
All 4, Bud?
No more than 4, sweet bedmake.
Oh, bitter anguish to my dying soul.
I prithee get in and look to thy charge. I say, incontinent I will return.
Incontinent, sir?
Incontinently incontinent.
Farewell, my lord. If needs so you will have it, then but.
Adieu, sweet duck.
He frowns on her, her back being turned. Exit Dowsabella to Malden.
And be hanged, quoth the clerk.
Unfortunate Claribel, that ever linked thou hast been to noble parentage, for as that White gave name to Icary, so high soared the burning sphere that molt wherein at last the bearers of his flight, so these wives that be sprung from high descent will stint their prodigal spendings never, till they have consumed their husbands to cinders. I speak not this to repine at any. They spend in reason, but to make their houses stews and brothels, it searcheth to our marrows. For, lords, what reeks have been kept in my house ere my home returned from my worldly traffic, here in Malden this 12-month space? What sports, what games, what plays, that nowhere I may pass but rhymes be made against my bed, and horns hung at my gate, beside which creditors rush upon me, which if they do but follow, I see no mean theirs, but give gyves and fetters. Therefore, Dowsabella, accuse thee I nil. Thy friends be mighty, and may downpoise me. But that I loathe thy falsehood, I will leave thyself to thyself, nor e'er hence more look upon thy false abhorred face. But as thou hast lived a blot unto me and mine, so will I live from sight of thine. And thus I bend my steps unto the cliffs of Harwich. There retired my former days to garish. Come away, sir.
I do follow you, sir.
Excellent. And once again, knock up the consort. Let's have some music. So the two affairs are having affairs with each other's wives.
Okay.
Which I say the audience basically figures out at the same time as the characters do. So which is quite nicely done. So one of them decides he's going to go off and fight the Spaniards. Well, hypothetically, I mean, you know, it's. Depends if they make it through, and the other one's going to go off and go off into the cliffs of Harwich, or similar. So we've got two different responses. One is to have a flaming round. The other is to quietly say goodbye and just disappear. Thoughts from the room, Lynn?
So that the servant mentions Tilbury. So this is the year of the Armada.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's 1588. So Tarleton's death, the Armada, it's all tied together in one thing. So we could argue this is a history play. I'm not going to argue this is a history play.
So yeah, the other thing I noticed is that so the husbands have figured out that their wives are having affairs, and they are outraged. But they, of course, have been having it off with the spouse of the man that each of their wives. And okay, so that irony is supposed to be funny.
Yeah, the irony meter is definitely swinging to and fro.
We are pegging the irony meter, but it's kind of not amusing me as maybe it was as much as it was supposed to.
Other thoughts in the room? We've got to again. Come on, people! Someone must have an opinion. Thoughts? Something? I know there's a dog, but you know, I mean, Alan.
Well, it's certainly not giving you time to settle into any one strand. You know, it's moving at a heck of a rate.
In a sense, yes and no. I mean, there's only two plot lines. There's a couple of affairs, and there's a bowl stealing, which in two acts seems like actually a relatively light amount of plot, really. I mean, in a sense, not a lot's happened.
Compared with some we've done lately, it's absolutely rammed with plot.
Kyle.
The language is odd. It's like really low, kind of coarse language, and then Latin. It's strangely. It doesn't seem to be like the usual language of the plays to me.
Well, I mean, it's not dissimilar to some of the. I mean, I'm constantly going back that this feels definitely like it's a boys' company play, and so we do get a lot of that sort of mix of Latin and some of the lower sort of lower edges of comedy. I
guess it just felt more stratified more so than usually.
Well, it's also the way that Latin is sort of mixed in with characters you wouldn't necessarily expect the Latin to be mixed in with as well. So it's there's an odd sort of mixing, and it's just the ridiculously elongated nature of some of the word choices as well. It feels at times like it's another another salvo in the War of the Theatres going. This is how you do ridiculously over highfalutin language. Lois.
Yeah, I think one of the boys' company features is the Latin is mostly, at least wherever I can identify it, from very obvious sources that they would have read in school. And the same with all the jokes that depend on proverbs and obvious things like that. And there was that joke about, since you've been to Italy, you're already a devil, and so you'll, if you have horns. I mean, it's that's just a reference to, I think, a really well-known thing, which I put in the chat, which translates as the Italianate Englishman as an incarnate devil. I'm sure he's quoting that because it is quoted quite a lot.
Yeah, so let us move on then. The music has died down during the interval. They've trimmed the candles. Act 3, Scene 1. Enter Denham from Malden and Lacy from Harwich, booted and spurred with truncheons both.
Captain Lacy, whither away, say?
Sir, to London with my press. And you?
I'm to Tilbury with my press, newly pressed.
I have to tell you, Denham, that the camp is removed to Colchester, and that thither I had express commandment to direct you from the Queen.
Be it so. But what's the news now, Lacy?
These. The enemies have lain their souls to gauge they will enter with their forces before tomorrow night Colchester town. Sent an herald they will, next day immediately ensuing, take the honourable city of London, untile their houses, crack their maidenheads, pull down churches, set up brothels, and 20 other termagant offers be not to be named by any bears but the name of a Christian, Denham.
But what the third day, Lacy?
They threaten the third day they will geld our lawyers, for it is now to be supposed, they say, if they should but leave them ungelded, as now they be, they would multiply to that increase, that having no commons left them in England, they would swim over in shoals to the Indies, and there, as the Goths William did in Italy, undo Spain of his gold mines, so to return home with golden whips upon the long tail of this our land.
On that condition I were one too, Lacy.
Gelded, thou meanest it?
Nay, for that my horse should be my deputy, Lacy.
As how, say?
Thus, even as parsons be bound either to go to the wars themselves, or to send thither a horse in their stead, so for some small unguent I should apply to my gelding his cods, he should supply my room, Lacy.
Most excellent.
But what says Elizabeth to these braves, Lacy? Say, who say?
Little or nothing, but like the sufficient wise lady the world knows her she be, she hath sent the Lord Admiral and divers before to confront them with her fleet. But what will become his embassy, the Lord knows, Captain Denham, not we.
How think you it will prove, Captain?
No leisure I have now tarry with you, but this assure you, we shall come home, all us, with our pates broken cross.
But that, Captain, I do not doubt, but we shall easily repay them their quarters likewise.
My hopes we shall. Adieu.
The like to you, Captain Lacy.
And send us all a magazine of purchase.
The Lord we may. Adieu.
Exeunt Denham to Harwich, Lacy to Malden. We'll go straight on to Act 3, Scene 2. Enter of Arvania and Janekin from Harwich.
Faith, Janekin, since the goodman hath forsaken house and harbour thus, what shall we two now do to repair the broken walls of him, since he hath left us the whole amends in our hands, lo?
I think it convenient we let them forth to beggars, mistress, and trust those rags he hath left us, and to seek another place of feeding.
If he had had the least drop of Christian blood in him, he would never have left us in the lurch thus, without any one groat to bless us, Janekin mine.
Truly, mistress, I would willingly travel to London, seek my fortune there. They say there their houses be of marzipans, and the walls all be of custard crusts effects.
A pretty metaphor it is, yet I see thou knowest not what the true meaning thereof is, fool.
Yet in sadness, let us travel thither, for as the proverb averreth, store is no store. There perhaps we wed may gather yet, on the board, a few of their crumbs, or some of the scraps of their loathed refusals, mistress.
Fie, let us never beg for the matter, good Janekin. Thou knowest beggars be but the froth and scum of the world. It were much better, since thou and I have been so long minions to sacred Minerva, turn embroiderers there, so for to scratch us a living forth, both the very excrement of the worm, Janekin.
Mistress, Be it as you have said. Yet first, notwithstanding, we be to look right narrowly to it before we shall be got thither. We be not taken up, both us, for a commodity of raw silk, mistress.
Why so, I pray you? Why raw silk, you fool?
The ways now, be so pestered with soldiers, mistress. We shall not pass for them scot-free, I fear. Is not that raw silk, I pray you?
Janekin, mine own credit be it on pawn for that. We have a queen, now general of the camp, who resideth now in Colchester. She is the maid of maids and the woman of women, and she will protect, I'm sure, distressed women in their need. Thither let us, she shall be my ultimum refugium, and under hope of her sacred justice, I will set forward whatever come of it. Then come, I say, confidently, and let us be jogging both.
Mistress, since you be determined so, I will obey you in what I may.
One thing may not be forgot yet.
What is it, I pray you?
A bottle of Rosa Solis hath not his fellow for a broken, contrite heart, wench. Hast any about thee, Janekin, say?
A whole bottle for the nonce, mistress.
That's an own, wench, by my troth. Come on, one limpet of him before we part. She drinks from the... So now come on, in God's name, let us both take horse and away once more. Come on.
I obey you, mistress.
But first thy new ditty, I pray thee, say.
Sorrow, sorrow, make haste with speedy wing. Eyes full floods for my departing. You birds that by way do sit harboring, bear witness of my disheartening. The trees drop leaves in symbol of my plight. The floods rise at my overthrow. The caves bellow for me distressed at white. The rocks rebel with my woe. Come, all you ladies of the hills and dales, comfort me in my wretched need. My dear alas hath leapt over the pales, and left me naught but grief instead. Why wail I thus for it that will not be? He's flown, I swear by Pan. Then let me sing to those give ear to me. Come home, oh my good man.
And they exit because, of course, it's halfway through an act and therefore there's a song. And in fact, I almost laughed and said, but first, I knew ditty. But before we move on to the next scene, here's Shalimar with... so, yeah, it's sort of just... strangely DJ at that moment. So yeah, it's sort of interesting. We have a sort of scene setting thing to just set the that briefly mentioned in the previous act that the Spanish are coming, but apparently they're going to be coming for Colchester town, which is, as anyone who's ever tried to catch a train to Colchester town knows, that happens once in a blue moon. It's almost impossible to get to Colchester town, but you know, it's you can check and try, but it never happens. So yeah, most of that is sort of interesting scene setting stuff for just to give a sense of anticipation of something happening. And then we have this rather sad scene with Arvania sort of left behind and turning to drink. You know, all sorts of different tonal shift here for this. Briony.
Yeah, I really liked the little servant scene where they were not servants, where they were going in opposite directions and they just stopped to kind of share the news. I thought it was a really, really clever way, because sometimes they just stand there and say it, and it's awkward and not very pleasant for the audience. But that was just a really lovely way of delivering that information.
And it's just sort of it sets a sort of tone and a different sort of sense of what's going on. It creates a sense of urgency to a degree as well. Lynn.
So yeah, I've been thinking this, but I haven't mentioned it yet. That actual infidelity is an unusual comic situation. We usually have the threat of infidelity, but it gets derailed, and the married couple resolve their differences, and the marriage is strengthened. So actual infidelity is more of a tragic situation. although it sometimes turns farcical as it does in Arden of Faversham. So this is really unusual, at least up to this period, up to now in this period, to have married couples cheating on each other, but it looks like at least one of the players of the four is sorry and she wants to make amends. So I'm really curious how this is going to shake out. Are they going to forgive each other? And are the marriages going to be healed? Which is unusual. I haven't seen that. But otherwise, what is a good resolution? This is just such an unusual plot setup for a comedy.
Yeah,
if it is indeed a comedy.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think broadly speaking, it seems to be aiming in that direction. But maybe it's what is it? Well, we'll know by the time we get to the end of it, I suppose. But yeah, it's the kind of setup you sort of expect 60 years later. Much more commonly. So yeah, Briony.
Yeah, does it do the two wrongs, the fact that they're doing it to each other, does that kind of cancel it out and make it then comedy? I don't know. It's a weird one.
Yeah. Other thoughts? Another nice song. I'm liking the songs. I think the songs are working very nicely, actually. They're not feeling annoying, and they're sort of mid-act each time. And of course you get music between the acts as well. So it's nicely balanced. Dan.
Yeah, I just really like the change of pace here, and I think it's always really smart when farcical comedies do inflict some serious moments into the play. You know, there's like slight allusions to Spanish are coming or whatever. I think that it gives the audience a breather and it gets some information across without it being too heavy-handed. And I think the song does a good job really here, especially with setting a different tone to it.
Okay, let's see what the act does with the tone for the rest of the of Act 3. Act 3, Scene 3. Enter Nym, Shift, and Pigot coughing. So, yes, and I'm just going to warn ahead that, Dan, could I ask you to read Pearl coming up in this scene? There's a clash.
Out close, mine host, and stint thy coughing, or we shall lose the game by thy mean now.
Gentlemen, I am so pestered with a myrrh that I cannot choose.
Then once for all, and be hanged.
Come on.
Yet.
Well.
Yet.
So.
One pluck more, I beseech you.
Go to one pluck more.
Now stint.
Enter Joyce and Dowsabella from the Tarlton.
That's Nym.
Oh, behold, calves, coming will cause thee cough, froth thy lungs, Pigot.
Recall your opinions, gentlemen, for they be sheep, not calves. You do behold.
Observe we yet the conclusion hereof.
Come on, sheep, by my troth.
And Pigot, Nym, and Shift withdraw.
Dear mistress, will you never leave troubling you thus, but make yourself a pinant and a ghost for one who cares not, I protest, the sole price of one blue button for you, what?
My sweetest Joyce, shall I tell thee what? This is the very case and main of it. Indeed, the man himself, he is such another in regard of his baseness, I may well spare him for another. But to lose such a portion by him, as also all that I brought with me to him too, for nothing, may move a constanter temper than myself, and of to bewail the fortune, Joyce.
Ay, marry, mistress, now you speak somewhat to the purpose, indeed, la. But what does your worship intend do herein now? Or wherefore have you brought us to Colchester, mistress?
Marry thus, pretty Joyce, I intend to do herein now. I hear it certainly reported by some, since our coming to town, that my fool, he intends to become a Capuchin.
Intends, mistress? That he is already, by your leave and by your license, mistress.
I prithee interrupt me not, but hear what I shall say to thee, fool.
Say on.
Since I cannot find him here in Colchester, as I was persuaded I should have done, without further abode here, I am determined now, hunt dry foot after him, far as from hence to Harwich, Joyce.
How will you pass for soldiers, lamb?
having already Her Majesty's passport, and being both us women as herself is too, I do not doubt but that we shall so obtain an easy pass, nay, to reach Harwich yet before tomorrow night, Joyce.
Well, then,
There, before my fool get him abroad, first and in primis, I will take him by the capuche. Then will I threaten him, if so he will not make his peace with me, to witness against him as against a traitor, and that hence he was flying to the enemy's fleet, so after to become a Capuchin, and that the marshals be all now up to apprehend him, who, rather than that he will forfeit so much of his soul for a lie, I think he will be better advised and come to composition with me, his repudiate, with the marshals also. Thou understandest me, Joyce? How sayest thou? Will not this most strongly work upon him, Joyce?
yes, in good truth will it, mistress, and therefore I could wish you will about it, with all the speed you may, mistress.
Well remembered, it is the best indeed. La, and therefore do thou incontinently bid James saddle our 2 nags, and make before us to the mount stile that is without the town, while thou and I get the money bags together and come after.
But will not our monies be let forth for us by the way, ween you?
No, I warrant thee. Go, and fear not.
I go, and will not be long before I be with you again, mistress.
Do so, good Joyce. In the meantime, with the best speed I may, I will make me ready until thou come. Come on thy ways.
I come.
Exeunt Dowsabella and Joyce. Pigot, Nym, and Shift come forward.
Now go thy ways for an errant as errant a you as ever pissed, I avow. But return we now all to the business we have in hand now. For lo, in pudding time, yonder come the calves we talked, I suppose. Stand close, I bid you all, and listen unto them we.
Nym, Shift, and Pigot withdraw. Enter Sanders, Pearl, Periman, and Wright.
Not too fast, Master Doctor, not too fast, sir. Take us also along with you, I beseech you, sir.
Master Sanders and Master Periman, if I show you not such a piece of hammercraft as ever yet have been fabricated on Cyclopean smithy, never give you my worship credit henceforth.
Is it possible such invention you speak should be couched in the pate of man, Master Doctor?
It is a riddle. Yes, indeed, a riddle.
Pigot, yes. From lurking in the shadows, says something.
Yes, Master Pigot, would you like to comment on that?
Which none but Nym may dissolve.
Then we beseech you, sir, you would but riddle us your riddle.
If Oedipus were alive, he might not dissolve it.
Gentlemen, as much I dare myself assure you. I've done much work in my days, but that ever yet I did any comparable to this, I cannot affirm.
Prithee, what's the device of him, say?
No, as thou respecteth my heavy hands, Wright.
Hands off, I pray you, sir.
You shall be the several explicators all of the Gordian. Now, for as much as I would willingly know of what dough your several Pericanians be needed, sirs, you shall not premeditate your solutions before you try it yourselves.
Sir, after these preambles, shall we have a sight of your monster now?
No, for whoso entered into sanctuaries of their gods used first cleanse them with the drops of the well. So you, before you drink of this never too much to be admired Hippocrene, must wash your harsh throats now first with the sweet juice of a hymn.
Master Doctor, we never learned sing in our lives, you know.
Ah, then let the goldsmith now for to strain him, while I must bear to him a burden.
We, out of this corner, like that the 3-folded echo, will make 3 reports to your burden.
And with the 3 claps upon the bum of him together.
Begin, Wright, begin, man.
If by any mean it may so stand with your will, I pray dispense with your song and show us but your bowl.
And not upon any condition, Master Penman, I do assure you.
Yet be it so, Master Doctor, we beseech you, sir.
Well then, go to, at both your services be it, gentlemen.
Now open the eyes of all things spiritual, celestial, aquatical, aerial, terrestrial, for to behold this monster in nature forthcoming. I do implore you all, you gods of Olympus all.
Ho, Christian! Ho!
Enter Christian.
Here, forsooth, husband.
Woman, bring me forth that standing bowl that was brought thee from me. Full well I do know nothing, no, this morning.
Sir, I sent you it back an hour gone.
Sent me it back an hour gone? Where, when, whither, why, by the whom? Say you whore.
Master Wright's man came for it in your worship's name.
I sent for no bowl, you cuckquean. I, Master Wright, did you send for any, huh?
Truly, sir, I brought it myself this morning. Never, I protest you. I did send for him again.
I think you will reduce me into a madness. Did not your worship send me a hare, in token thereof, this morn, to be dressed against your coming home with certain strangers to dine with you? Huh?
That's most true.
I sent thee no hare, nor had I any stranger dine with me today. Say, gentlemen, did I bid any of you to dine with me today? Say, oh say.
Neither today nor any time heretofore. We durst be sworn on a book for it, Master Doctor.
Is my standing bowl gone, you whore, huh?
Did not your worship send me word you were purpose have your own face be set upon him in lieu of one of the antics, sir? Huh?
What's antic work, Master Doctor?
Didst deliver him on that token, huh?
I did.
Oh, harlot, bitch, bellatrice, witch, bald, ribald, shribbane.
Patient yourself.
I will turn her hood over her ears.
Pearl goes to attack Christian, but is restrained by Periman and Sanders.
Lenitur qui sapiunt sapiunt magis.
Sapient magis, I know that to be most true. Why, I have been these 20 summers a professor here in Colchester, yet was I never so disgraced in all thy summers. Gentlemen, but suffer I come upon her, I may bestride her now.
Contain yourself, sir.
Doubtless some of your friends, minding bring you him filled with hypocras, have left you in pawn thereof a hare low.
Is my standing bowl gone, i'faith?
Come, sir, but walk one turn in the field and cool you. Then come we back all, make an end of this noble lepus. Come, I say.
First, let me have but one fling at her, I beseech you.
It may not be.
Ist quod deferter non de offerter. Bind my bowl against my coming home, hussy, or look for no other than for fire and brimstone from these fists. You hear, you see?
Most ghastly thunderclaps they will be, I assure you, gentlemen.
Exit Christian.
Come, I pray you. Fie, Master Doctor, who would have thought you had been so testy? Fie, come, I say.
I beseech your worship, you would but now delivering me my money. I might be gone.
That's a new song now.
Hello? I am moved. See you provoke me not.
Exit Pearl.
I will follow and speak to him when he shall be in his better mood. For now, questionless, he wants the special difference of a man.
Exeunt Wright, Sanders and Periman.
Shift. Didst ever hear better music in thy days, Shift?
No, by the crowd of Apollo Nib have I. Why, sirrah, this now was better to me than a pair of recorders, I avow.
A pair of discorders, you should have said, gentlemen. But now come, let us in all, and there laugh a good at this new-come dancer and dancing hobby horse. Come.
Go but you before, I will follow you.
Exeunt Pigot and Nim.
Whoa!
Enter Christian.
What lack you, friend?
Good news, mistress, good news. Your bowl is found.
Found? The blessing of our Saviour.
Mistress, it is found, I assure you. It was but a device of Master Sanders to put his worship in a chafe. Now they be laughing the gentleman for it, forth his coat all.
Master Sanders will never leave his capriccios, I conceive him true. But beshrew his heart for it, for he has purchased me a foul day by the mean.
My coming now, mistress, was for hair, was bespoke for dinner. They mind all to be merry with him now at Master Sanders's house, and require you would but come over also yourself, and to eat your part thereof.
Never with a better appetite since I was born. Tarry but here, I will fetch him to you straight.
And exit Christian.
Now, Lord, send us but such another bear-baiting once more, we do all beseech thee, and that with the best of our souls. O thou, our most blessed Lord and Saviour, thou.
Re-enter Christian with the hare in a platter roasted.
But lo, here she comes. I have him, lo.
Hold you, young man.
Mistress, dispatch, make you ready, else they will be set all ere you come.
I warrant you, friend. Av.
Oh, I thank you, mistress.
He makes mow at her as she turns her back. Exeunt Shift and Christian severally, and we once again knock up the consort and close Act 3. So we have on a surface a sort of farcical situation of the bowl isn't there, but I gave it away, etc. And the hare is got out of the situation in the end, in a situation that yes we do recognise from another play elsewhere. It is definitely marred for us in the sense of the very loaded language used, and even more so than we've really come across in many places. I mean, we've had the odd scattering of whore being used, but Pearl, by God, he does pull out all of the expletives there. It's very aggressive. I mean, I think the farcical situation can be sort of pulled out of there by being considerably less violent, but certainly in the direction against Pearl. But yeah, it doesn't read well. Thoughts from the room, Lynn.
Yeah, I'm really struggling with this one. I mean, as I've said before in one of these readings, I have a particular distaste for failing domestic partnerships as the fodder for comedy. You know, Noel Coward ages really poorly for me. It's just not funny. So that premise is very hard for me to engage with, like these two unhappy marriages, or at least two marriages that are failing or in danger of failing. And then Pearl like going off on his wife for making a maybe stupid, arguably kind of dumb, but honest mistake. And he all of a sudden turns all of his abusive language sexual. Like, what even is the motivation for that? Yeah, so the farcical situation is not enough to sort of counterbalance the sort of mean-spiritedness, the ugliness that I'm feeling here. Ooh, I'm really struggling with this one.
Kyle.
Once again, it's also echoing the other one. The same kind of language was used, and I was struck then at how wives seem to be being treated like servants in a way that seems more intense than in other plays.
Yeah, it's so much more loaded throughout. I mean, we've got a situation that potentially could actually work very nicely and could be quite fun. There's something very interesting about the two affairs that are going on, but the two affairs are so unexplored. Actually, that there's very little actually going on there, which is quite disappointing because these are also affairs with a very ongoing relationships here. These are not newlyweds. One at least one of the couple's been married for 20 years. So there's potentially something very interesting going on there. But this play isn't really exploring that. It's just a situation, and as of yet, actually, the other affairs have not really been explored at all, really, in any depth. Briony, then Lois.
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether it's this thing again of putting something into a certain format makes it more acceptable, more palatable for an audience. So like in modern times, as I said before, they tend to use animation for this. And you did say this one's a boys' company, right? So maybe these dysfunctional relationships aren't quite as disturbing and real because they're being portrayed by boys, you know, because that almost just takes the reality away from it, that it isn't, so they can be that much more dark and grim about it without the audience feeling it that much necessarily.
I mean, we can never know what the original intent was, but you know, one doesn't get the impression that the playwright is intending this to be a dark and a situation. It looks like they're intending to play it all for farce and comedy. It doesn't matter to us today because we've got to find a way of making it work today. Though, in a sense, to a degree, it's just a matter of just filleting the dialogue and making some minor, actually relatively minor tweaks to the scene, so it's not so aggressively directed at Pearl. It's just if his tirade, Pearl's wife, the tirade just goes sort of upwards rather than forwards. But yeah, it has an odd taste so far. Lois.
Yeah, I mean, I think one can also think of both the author, perhaps, and the kids playing this, just having no real interest in marriage or any knowledge of what adults are like, you know, and just thinking this is all terribly funny. I don't know how old Percy was when he wrote this thing.
That's a very good question. I don't know. I will look in a book and see if I can find some information on that.
Okay.
Somebody else can Google it and find it faster, I'm sure. Stephen.
Right. And I shall be off. Goodbye.
Ta-ta, Lois.
Yes.
Stephen.
Well, we've got well, potentially at least, we've got an onstage audience for a lot of this, haven't we? We've got the kind of the rogues who are hiding and occasionally popping out and going, "Oh, this is brilliant, isn't it?" So that might be a way of nuancing it, I guess. We take a cue from the people on stage, who also refer not, I don't think, to the spousal stuff, but they do refer to it as a bear baiting, don't they? Which, you know, however much we may not be keen on bear baiting now, this was, you know, respectable public entertainment of a fairly aggressive kind, you know, but people did go to the bear baiting just to have a laugh at unfortunates. In the same way as, you know, supposedly they go to the madhouse and have a laugh at the people mentally ill who are doing all these kind of silly things. So the two really, one, if we're staging it now, we've got possibly the people on stage that we can use to kind of direct it, and two, it's just a kind of crueler sense of humor, perhaps.
Yes, and in answer to the question, he's 26. At the moment, so a young gun at this time. Kyle.
It's weird too, these two references to the Queen and her providing some sort of shelter for these women. It's a strange. Then it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Just there. I don't know. Maybe it is.
Okay, we are approaching extra time. We've done 3 acts, got a general shape of the show. It's I have to say the lens that's, for me, that's making it easier to sort of get a grip on is actually more restoration than it is Jacobean. There's something of that sharpness to it and bitterness to some of this, and the sort of comedy structure to it as well. Though of course I may just be entirely projecting on that. I think in terms of the overall shape of what it's doing, it sort of works. There's a farcical plot there. There's other things going on. But the language is very, very... I think there's an awful lot of filleting to do with language, and there's some tweaking to do to make certain of those scenes to land in a way that isn't just awful. But then maybe they're supposed to be awful. Maybe we should lean into the awfulness of some of these characters, and maybe that's what we should be doing with it. I don't know at this stage, because we're only halfway through the play. We are pretty much halfway through the play. Sarah, do you have any final thoughts on this one?
I'm wondering if maybe this I don't know. I think perhaps I'm, I mean, hey, he was a 26-year-old writing possibly for Boys Company. I'm probably reading more into this than I should be. But I do think it's interesting that you have such different levels of power being depicted in this play, because you've got, Christian there, who's just being treated horribly by her husband, and it's kind of meant to be funny, and that's all kind of quite icky, as we've said. But then you've actually got this this wife swap situation going on, where there seems to be, so far at least, I don't know what's going to happen, but there seems to be like this equilibrium of power going on there. And it's underscored by the fact that it is a literal swap. Dowsabella is having an affair with Claribel, and no, Claribel's a husband of Floradin, and her husband Claribel's having an affair with Arvania, who is Floradin's wife. And it's like that kind of that is, Lynn was saying earlier, this is unusual, and it is unusual, and it's interesting that there's this sort of quite easy balance of power between the kind of shenanigans of the husbands and wives within that world. And then you've got that contrasted with what is going on with Pearl and Christian, where she, bless her, is just such I was going to say whipping boy, but whipping girl, quite literally. But also she's the butt of everybody's jokes. And everybody treats her callously. It's not just her husband, like everybody is treating her really, really callously. And I just wonder if that's deliberate on some level. Maybe something's going to happen in the second half of the play to sort of play up that difference even more. Or maybe I'm just reading too much into it, but I do find it quite interesting that you've got quite an unusual setup with the wife swapping lovers, and that's being contrasted with something that is far more common, and sort of unfortunately like far more recognizable.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot more plot to come, so all sorts of things are going to happen anon. Not too many spoilers there, which may give us a better thoughts on that. But this is the interval effectively, so this is what we go into for drinks and discussion before we move forward. Dan, any final thoughts?
Looking to unmute there. Not sure where I want to go with this play at this moment, just because obviously this troubling Percy's point of view on women is very troubling. And I do think it, as Robert suggested, you can fill it out those parts, and this can easily just become yet another farcical comedy, Roman type comedy. And Lois had alluded to it earlier. I do like that the fact that Percy is giving us a lot of hints that we don't see in other plays of how he wants it to be staged, and also just the way that the stage would appear with the named signs over the different types of houses. And I think that's the kind of thing that if one's having a trouble, I guess, following along with the text, you can, if you sketch it out on the stage, you can really see where everyone is coming from, and it makes the plot very easy to follow. I think it could be, with the troublesome parts aside, I like the different shape. I like the different rhythms in the play, and I like the way that it shifts from tonally from scene to scene. I guess I just want to reserve judgment for the rest of the play.
Yes, I mean, the play does actually have a decent shape, and it's got some really interesting setups for each individual scene. And I think there's a language barrier for a lot of this, actually, that it needs a bit of work to just get our tongues into that universe of that texture. Kyle, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just struck by also the kind of maybe it's not intentional, and I think we've mentioned it, but just that there's a kind of sadness and farce at the same time that is interesting, and I think it could be interesting to watch.
Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I must admit, I'm quite enjoying the fact that it's working at a good pace. There don't seem to be there's an awful lot of long words, but there's not many wasted words, which is a nice contrast from some of the things we've done of late. Because I've had great difficulty in getting my head into some of these sort of humorous type things, which seem to be an awful lot of verbiage going not very far at all. This one, at least, we got some movement going forward in the plots. And I've got to try and avoid spoiler alerts, given that I worked on this piece not that many days ago. But yes, there's some need for tidying up and maybe toning down in some of it. The other thought that got me is that there does seem to be an awful lot of showy-offy use of language, both the extensive Latin quotes, which I think, as you said, indicate boys' company, but also using many, many English polysyllabic words. And I almost wonder whether these were set up to torment particular members of the company who had trouble remembering or pronouncing.
It does seem bizarrely showy-offy, but then we haven't read any Marston for a while, so maybe there's occasionally weird words in there, which we've definitely had criticism of recently. So there might be an issue there. I don't know. Stephen, any final thoughts?
I find myself of one mind with everybody else. Really, I don't have anything to add.
It's fine. It's fine. I think it's a tricky one. This one, I'm struggling to place. Briony, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not disliking it. I'm not too confused about what it is, but I'm finding the language a little bit difficult in places. But that being said, it's got some amazing language in it. It's taught me some really, really interesting new words. And as I said in the chat earlier, I think I've probably set myself a new record for looking up archaic words during this read, because I've looked up at least 10. Yeah, I'm interested to see what else it's going to do.
Dan.
Yeah, I didn't mention it, but just it does follow in that tradition, I think, of the use of plays to practice rhetoric. And I don't think I don't have an issue with these really long archaic words because of the way that, like, A, what it was meant for, and B, because it doesn't seem distracting in the sense that, oh God, they're just being show-offs. It feels like more you get a sense of the character. In fact, it colors the character who's speaking those words versus, oh, I really need to pick up every single word that person is saying. It's like, no, I didn't need to actually. I got the sense of how you are, I think.
Right. Any more before I close the session? Okay. Well, we will return to the second half of this play sometime in the future. Till then, all that remains, thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. The hemorrhoids consume thy fundament.